Shalom, Gabe Greenberg here, Rabbi of Congregation Beth Israel in New Orleans, Louisiana, learning with you this week the commentary of the Netziv on the weekly Torah portion. This week, studying Parshat Bo, Exodus chapter 13, verses 3 and 4. The context for where we're going to jump in is that the Israelites were finally freed from the land of Egypt. Pharaoh, following the 10th brutal plague, sends the Israelites away, says, I don't want to see you anymore. And we learn on the Israelites' way out about the Pesach sacrifice that will be offered every subsequent year, as well as the holiday of Pesach, the holiday of Passover, which includes 7 days of eating matzah, or certainly not eating chametz. So the Netziv begins his commentary here on the end of verse 3 in chapter 13. V'lo ye'achel chametz. Chametz, leavened products, will not be eaten. He says, what is this all about? Matzah ein ba yitron al yedei tachbalot yad ha'adam lahalot ha'isa. Matzah, unleavened bread, doesn't require human intervention to make it, to cause it to come together. It's simply kemach v'hamayim shenivraim mimeno yitbarach. It's just flour and water, both of which God created. They come together. You have matzah. Ma she'en kein chametz, which is not true regarding leavened products. Sholet bo tachbalot ha'adam lahalot ha'itza al yedei seor. Because for leavened goods, humans need to intervene with their machinations and add seor to cause the bread or breaded product to rise. Seor is often translated as yeast, but it seems that a better translation would be a starter dough of some kind. And he says, Mashum hachi hu ot shekiyum Yisrael hu rak baruach Adonai. The fact that we cannot eat leavened products is a signifier. It's to remind us that just like water and flour are created, or water and grain are created by God, and that's simple coming together without human intervention, so too the continued existence of the Jewish people and the Israelite people, and the fact that they survived through hundreds of years of Egyptian slavery, was solely due to God. And this process of not eating chametz is supposed to instill in us this remembrance and this emunah, this faith in the fact that God runs the world. The next verse, Hayom atem yotzim bechodesh ha'aviv. You leave Egypt today in Chodesh Ha'aviv, the month of Aviv. So Aviv means springtime. It also seems to be a reference to a agricultural, botanical stage in the ripening of grain. So this is always we now understand rabbinically that Chodesh Ha'aviv means Nisan, the month of Nisan. And it's interesting that the Torah makes note to tell us, we already knew we were leaving in Nisan, so why does it tell us this again and call it Chodesh Ha'aviv, the springtime month? So Rashi says, Lo hainu yodin be'eza chodesh yatsu. What, you think we didn't know which month we were leaving in? Ella, rather, why was it said? Ra'u chesed shigamalchem. Look what a great thing God did. Shehotziatchem b'chodesh shehu kasher letzeit. That God went out of God's way, specifically made it happen that the Israelites would leave in a great month for leaving. Why? Lo chama v'lo tzina. It wasn't too hot. It wasn't too cold. V'lo geshamim. It wasn't rainy. So Rashi understands the repetition of our verse here of saying Chodesh Ha'aviv, calling Nisan the springtime month, is to point to an additional chesed, an additional kindness that God granted the Israelites on the way out, that it was a very comfortable month for leaving. The Netziv has a different explanation, which accords with his general approach here. He says, Hayom atem yotzim b'chodesh ha'aviv, you're going out today, Israelites, you're leaving Egypt in the springtime month, means ein atem tzrichim ke'et laharbot ha'pulot kedei lahashrish emunah zu. in the month of Nisan, you don't have to do anything right now. You don't have to do major actions in order to root in your heart, to plant in your heart this faith in God. Shahare, Hagula Atzma, the redemption itself, Ma shena'aseh le'einechem moelet harbe. You, Israelites, you saw the 10 plagues. You saw the redemption with your own eyes. Soon, in next week's Parsha, you'll see the splitting of the sea. Umishum hachi, and therefore, therefore Nisan is called Chodesh HaAviv, the springtime month. And now he makes a beautiful comparison to the agricultural world, which speaks to me deeply. Just like someone who wants to plant a seed in the ground at this time of year in Nisan, you don't have to do very much. If you're planting a seed in Israel in the springtime, you just put the seed in. That nature is set up in a way that at this time, the forces of nature are such that it will cause such a seed to generally be successful. It will be somech liot somech v'gadel b'tov. It's going to grow up to do very well. Ve'ein sarich hechsherim lezeh. Humans don't need to do a lot to make this happen. You can see as parallel to the Matzah Chametz idea of adding yeast or a starter. But that's not true if you try to plant a seed in the winter time, for example. You'd have to do a lot to cause the seed to be successful. So he says that this for him is why the verse calls it Chodesh HaAviv, not like Rashi says to show you that, it was very comfortable, but it alludes to the agricultural reality that's going on in the spring, that just like planting a seed is easy to do in Nisan, in the March-April period, so too, and doesn't need a lot of human intervention, so too, matzah reflects simplicity, the way that God created the world without human intervention, and that was all that was needed for the Israelites when they had just left the land. The Netziv concludes by noting that according to the Midrash Halacha, the rabbis say that it seems that originally there was only a prohibition of not eating chametz, perhaps just for the first day, for that first generation. But in the future, in the land of Israel, they would need more. He says, why? Because the next verse, verse 5, V'haya, Ki yaviacha Hashem al eretz haKanani, when God will ultimately bring you to Canaan, to the land of Israel, he's going to go on and say that you're going to do, the verse goes on to say, Shivat Yamim Tochal Matzot, that there a full 7 days, goes from 1 to 7. Here's the Netziv. Va'az miteva hadam be'etza hatzlacha lishkoach mi she'asa lo ha'chayil hazeh. What's the problem? That in the future, there's 40 years, and then beyond that, from the time of redemption, the act of redemption, people will forget. It is the nature of humans during a time when they're having success and they're living on their own land. They'll forget how things used to be and who caused them to provided them with all this good, namely God. Yoter mamishu meitzar ba'aniyut. Ve'enav taluyot la'aviv shebashamayim. This won't happen to the generation that left Egypt, who were in a bad place and their eyes were looking up towards God to help them. For those people, the first generation, mashrish bilivavo zichronot tovot shemikvar. They will have rooted in their hearts a remembrance of how things were and what God did for them. And therefore, Mishum hachi hikti makatuv shahare tavo le'eretz zavat chalav udavash. God says you're going to go to a place where you'll have success. It'll be flowing with milk and honey. Al kain hinani mazhircha laharbot haksherim l'zchirazu. At that point, you'll have to do more to remind yourself about what happened and how things were. And this is, of course, reminiscent of what happens for us today. We have to do a lot to prepare for Pesach and to celebrate Pesach, the Seder, and 7-8 days of not having Chametz can be difficult. We have to do a lot, but that is because we are distanced. It's been thousands of years from these events. So please God, hopefully we do a lot of work in order to have it sink in for us, faith in God, faith in a higher power, a belief in the really incredible existence of the Jewish people over thousands of years, and a belief that as bad as things might seem, they can always get better. According to the Netziv, this was an idea that was obvious to the generation that left Egypt, but we nowadays need a lot to remind ourselves of that. So have a great week. Looking forward to learning more with you next week. Take care.